If you're looking at your Gene Keys profile, there are 13 spheres that you will see. And I'm talking the traditional golden path, not the star pearl. I'll save that for another time. What I'm going to do over the coming days and weeks is walk through each of these 13 spheres, explaining what energy they hold, what they represent, and some different things to think about with each. If you're new to the channel, my name's Jay Cohen. I teach about the Gene Keys, other esoteric stuff, and I've already got videos going through the different line keynotes for all of the different spheres. And I've done all of the different pathways, but I haven't talked about the actual spheres themselves. And that's what I'm going to get into today. And I'm going to start with where we would typically start in the profile, which is the sphere of your life's work. So this sphere of your life's work is at the beginning because it's the easiest place to start, because it gives us potential for a breakthrough. So we start right in the beginning, coming out hot, dealing with the biggest challenge. So your life's work is part of the biggest challenge that you are going to face over the course of your life. It's also more accessible because it is a sphere that is conscious. What that means is it is closer to the surface. Unlike our radiance and our purpose, which are unconscious, below the surface, we have direct access to this sphere of life's work. Now, ultimately, what it represents is what you are meant to do in the world. So I think oftentimes we confuse our purpose with our life's work. And so people run around saying, what is my purpose? And what they're really saying is, what is my life's work? What am I meant to do out in the world? Because your purpose is much more about who you are. It's a quality of consciousness that you bring into this doing. But this is what you are meant to do. And there's two components to this doing. So first and foremost, and it's where we don't want to start, but it's what's really important, is the internal. And then also taking a look at the external. So internal doing, what I mean by this is if you take a look at the gene key that you have in your sphere of life's work. So for me, that is the 32nd gene key, which is failure, preservation, veneration. My deepest work inside of myself has to do with overcoming failure. That's like the mountain that God gave me as part of my dharma. And I'm constantly going to have to come back, because this is my biggest, or one half of my biggest life challenge. I'm constantly going to come back to needing to overcome failure. Stopping the worry that things are going to fall apart, that if I do something wrong, that the whole gig is up, right? So that is my internal work. And it took me a really long time to understand that, because I had always seen life's work as what you were meant to do. And I thought that meant outwardly, what I meant to do. And then as I contemplated it and let it sink in, I realized that if I am to do this outwardly, of course, I've got to overcome that thing inside of myself as well. So once we have that internal work, then I get into externally, how can I take this energy and use it in the world? And it's really important. This does not need to be literal. Most of the time it is not literal. So I already told you I'm a 32, and then I have the 6th line. And the 6th line is a line of vision, and it's the line of the teacher. And look at me right now, standing in front of the whiteboard, teaching, but I don't see myself as a teacher, right? It's not like I'm in a school. There's lots of different ways that we can pull this off. And that's for the line, but the same thing can be said for the gene key. So the gift is preservation. That doesn't mean I'm out like preserving the environment, right? It doesn't mean that I'm out preserving a business. I don't know. Preservation just means I'm identifying something that is important to me from our history, from our past, and I am putting my time, energy, and effort into that thing to steward it for the future generation. So that is a very broad definition, but that is my life's work. It's what I am meant to do out in the world. Now, I already told you that this is part of your challenge. And what I mean by that is if you look at your profile, you'll see your life's work gene key at the very top, and then you're going to see a line that connects to a sphere all the way over on the right, and that is the sphere of evolution. And this pathway, so the profile is made up of spheres, which contain your gene keys and lines, and then these pathways that are a bit more collective in nature, if you will. This is what's called the pathway of challenge, connecting these two, and these two spheres are called programming partners. And they work together to create this kind of unified field. So when you are taking a look at your life's work, you also should loop in your evolution, although my recommendation is to look at them each individually and then bring them together and see what possibilities that opens up for you. So because they are a unified field, oftentimes they can work together to spiral us upwards into the gift or the city, and oftentimes they spiral us downward into the shadow. And so learning how to deal with this energy, this unified field, is the biggest challenge that you're going to have in your life. The sphere of evolution is the proverbial rock in your shoe. It's the thing that is going to be this, at a lower frequency, this annoyance, this thing that you're constantly going to have to turn towards because it's grabbing your attention and creating suffering in your life. So we've got to balance these. We've got to understand them. We've got to unlock them. And when we do that, that is us stepping into our life's work. So it's a very deep challenge. And it's going to continue to come back, as I said. Next up it is a sphere. Sorry, I'm looking at my iPad down here and I don't have my glasses on, so I'm blind. It's a sphere that changes meaning as you evolve. So this sphere of life's work changes as you evolve. What am I talking about here? Well, if you have been around the gene keys for a little while, or even if you haven't, you'll know that there are a couple spheres that serve double duty, meaning that they hold one energy, and then when we get further down the golden path, that sphere kind of morphs and changes, and it ends up holding a different energy. And the life's work is one of those. And what it transitions to is what's called your brand in the pearl sequence. And this is a big conversation that I'll probably save the meat of for another time, but essentially as you walk the golden path, starting at your life's work, going to your evolution, to your radiance, to your purpose, then into the Venus sequence, then all the way to the pearl, you come back to the brand, which is essentially the last sphere, because there is one more, it's called the pearl, but it's different. It's got a different vibe. It kind of shows up instead of it being a pathway directly to it. I'll save that for another video. But your brand, because it's towards the end of the journey, you have totally shifted and changed. And it's no longer your ego that is like, what am I meant to do in the world? It's your soul that sings out, and we're much more aligned. And instead, we find our brand, we find our unique voice. So the point of this is that as you evolve, as you shift, your understanding of this sphere is going to change. And I'm saying this just to encourage you to stick with it and to know that all of these energies, although the energy is consistent, the way that you perceive it as your frequency changes is really going to shift and move. Next up is Oh, this is a biggie. So, the work, as you are trying to uncover your life's work, you uncover via subtraction. In other words, so often in the West especially, we think we have to train our way into our life's work. I got to go to 9 billion schools, take all these courses, get all these certifications. Then when I do that, then I will know or be able to see what my life's work is. But in reality, your life's work, you have everything inside of yourself already, right in this moment, to fulfill your life's work. That's how this works. God gives you exactly what you need in order to fulfill your dharma. But we think that we're not enough because we're told over and over and over again, you need this thing to fit in, you need this thing in order to be successful, yada, 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 all the nonsense. And so we think we've got to add stuff, but in reality, by adding, what we're doing is creating complexity. And it's like each layer we put on is like we're adding another coat, another coat, another coat. And if you've ever seen the movie The Christmas Story, with the kid that's like in this big puffy coat and he's like running around complaining because he can't move his arms, that's what you're doing to yourself. And you cannot express your life's work, which is natural and flowy, when you have this tightness, this stuff all around you that has added and created this complexity. So fight the urge. I tell this story that I took from Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, about a lion and a cheetah. And a cheetah runs 70 miles an hour, is incredibly agile, incredible acceleration, and it's because they hunt during the day. And so they need this speed to be able to chase down the animal. Compare that to a lion who hunts at night and is given this night vision that is incredible. So the speed can be much lower because they have this secret or special ability to hunt at night. And each of those is given exactly what they need to fulfill their life's work, in the same way that you are given exactly what you need to fulfill your life's work. The next thing I want to talk about here is something that I know a lot of you struggle with. It's something that I struggled with for a long time, and honestly, in certain circumstances, like waiting in line, I still struggle with. And that, my friends, is patience. So it's called your life's work, not your week's work, not your month's work, not your year's work, your life's work. Give yourself grace. It is going to take a lifetime to bring this thing out. And it is us trying to force it out, that adds the complexity, that takes us away from our real and true life's work. This is something that's going to bubble up. It's going to show up in your life. I promise it is, but you've got to do the internal work. That's why, remember I said we've got that internal side, then the external can come. When you do your internal work, which takes a ton of patience, we want it to go fast. But as you do, and as your frequency raises, we create this field of synchronicity. And what starts to happen is your life's work begins to show itself. It is drawn to you through the sphere of attraction, another sphere that we'll get to. And if you try and force it, that adds tension, and it doesn't allow this field of synchronicity to do the work. This isn't about you doing the work. Well, it's half you doing the work, right? We've got our evolutionary current, which is us striving to grow and reach up to God. And then we've got our involutionary current, which is the divine reaching down and offering us help. And so often we want this, or we focus on this because it makes us feel like we can do something, and we don't like not feeling in control. But when you are just all this, you leave no room for this involution. And it is exhausting. I promise. I did it for a very long time. Okay. Next up is, even though it is your life's work always serves the whole. So as you're contemplating your life's work, you have to remember that this isn't, even though it's your work, you're not doing it for you. You are a vessel for the divine. You are someone who is here for the collective. If you are drawn to this work, and that doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself. You cannot be a martyr and do this work. It has to come from a place of abundance, from an overflowing cup. And when it does, you realize something. And this is why the life's work transitions to the brand. And I don't want to ruin the surprise, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. But you do need to know that whatever this is, it's always going to benefit the whole. Not just you, not just your family, not just the people you care about, the entirety of Gaia. And so if you are thinking in this little box of like, how can I improve my world? Then you are off of your life's work. Okay, next up. Action absolutely is going to be required. Woo! In the Pearl sequence, there's a pathway called the sphere of initiative, or excuse me, the pathway of initiative. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. You've got to take initiative. You've got to do the action. However, especially because of the way that we've been brought up and raised, we tend to overemphasize the action. Kind of like what I was talking about with the evolution and involution. And we've got to make sure that this is balanced with receptivity. Meaning, I do not have to make anything happen. I have to listen. I have to be open. I have to be yin. That's the most important thing, is to open, to listen, to be aware, to allow these frequencies to come into you, to notice the signs and the things that are happening in your life. That only happens if you are taking pauses, if you are slowing down, and if you are receptive. I think so often we feel this tightness, this, I've got to get my life's work figured out, because we feel like life is passing us by. And it takes away this receptivity, and you stay blind. The universe, God is like, look at all this evidence and these signs that I'm giving you, and you're not looking at any of it because you're so worried about taking action. So carving out those pauses, carving out that space to receive what is being given to you is so important. The next piece is one of my favorites, and it's something that I certainly fell into this trap. I'm just now crawling my way out of it. I know a lot of spiritual people who are in this trap. A lot of the people that I work with in my container definitely are working on this or dealing with this right now. So when we're working on our life's work, it feels so important. Again, like we feel like life is passing us by. We feel like, I've got to figure this out and support the people that I care about. And what ends up happening is we get so serious. So you've got to beware of becoming dogmatic or overly serious. So what tends to happen on the dogmatic side of things is we're moving along, we're doing our work, we're open, we're receiving, things are we're being led places, and then we find a system like the gene keys, like human design. There's a lot of them. I'm just kidding. Those two are very prominent in people I talk about. So we find a system and we attach ourselves to that system, and we think this is the way, this is the thing that's going to bring out my life's work, and it's hyper focused, and we confuse the river with the banks. We confuse the energy that is trying to move through the system with the system itself. So you've got to be aware of that dogma, because your life's work is going to be something only you have and only you can do. And so if you're just locked into somebody else's dogma, somebody else's system, it's going to stop that from being able to blossom and grow out into the world. Then serious, man, doing this work, dealing with your challenge, it's hard work. We got to face our shadows over and over and over again. We got to deal with our trauma. We got to look at our past. We got to think about all the mistakes that we've made. We turn towards our suffering in this work. And if you're not careful, you can get so serious. It is vital that you remember to laugh through this process. And it's laughing at yourself. It's laughing at the universe, laughing at the ridiculousness of what you've done in the past. I'm telling you, it is like, if you do not have fun in this journey, you will never uncover your life's work. That's how important it is. You're just going to tighten down, like I was saying before. And in that tight state, we miss everything that is trying to come through it. All right, very last thing I've got for you today is that, man, I'm blind. You are going to have never-ending energy when you find your life's work. Because this is a mission from God, or if you like the word universe, or whatever you want to call that thing. So, never-ending energy, because it is your dharma. It is what you are here to do. It is something that is going to feel so good in your body and in your being, and because of that, you're never going to run out of juice. Now, absolutely, you still have to care for yourself. You still have to do your disciplines, all your practices, all these things to stay connected. But that connection will never let you down. You will always have the juice that you need, because you're here for a purpose. You've got something to do, and I want desperately for you, I need you to help me in this work and what we're doing as we transition into something else, right? We can see the world beginning to crumble around us, and something new. It's crumbling on the outside because something new is coming through the inside. So come with me. If you like this video, as I said, over the coming days, weeks, I'm going to be going sphere by sphere. So I'll do the sphere of evolution next. I encourage you to stick around. I'll create a playlist for it so you can see all of them. As I said, I've already got the lines, the pathways. This kind of rounds out all of this teaching. If you want to talk to me in person, I do a free call. It's called a wisdom call. I do them every couple of weeks. I'd love to see you there. I'll put the link in the description. And then I've got some cool shit working in the background that is the reason I haven't had a video out in a little bit. So more on that coming. But yeah, thank you for being here. My pleasure. I honor you for doing this work. Till next time.